Any chance of a drunken rolling pin to go with the drunken chopping board? Elliot, that is a great idea. So now we should have two boards cut with the same kerf that we can mix and match. Is that. So this will become one board and this will become a second board. We don't want to glue those two boards together. It's funny, I was going through my footage of the last time I made this, which was back in 2015, and it wasn't in this shop, it was in the shop behind my house where I first started making videos, which is now just a storage shed. And yeah, so that's like 4 years ago. I don't feel so bad that I forgot what all the steps were. And I need two flat edges. I was going to put them through the planer, but after scraping the glue and quick sanding, you should get a really good connection there. And so this is the way you want these two boards to sit together, basically the inverse of each other. Neighbor kids are outside screaming, as they do every Sunday. I don't know why I wait till Sunday to film this stuff. It's just me and the screaming neighbor children. You start getting a really interesting pattern, because although the lines are wavy, the cross points still match up. That's due to the fact, the way that we stacked them. If you stack them in properly, then they won't line up right. If there's a trick to any of this that you need to know, it's that you need to have your bandsaw tuned really well, and you need to make sure that you do not push during the cut. If you push during the cut, what will happen is the blade will deflect, and then the top piece and the bottom piece will not match, and so they will not mate properly. Bum ba da dum ba da dum bum. Under pressure. Kind of makes you wish for resin with like 45 minutes of open time. 10 minutes of glue up time. That's absurd. How's a person supposed to get anything done in 10 minutes? How much on the timer?
It's running at 2 minutes and 7 seconds.
I want to keep this thing flat as I can. Alright, and that's time. I'm going to do this again. I got to do this all over again. So now that they're both out of clamps, I've got 2 rough surfaces and 2 flat surfaces. But in order to make the pattern work, they need to go together like this. And you can look and see that those pieces will then fit together. And as I'm sitting here looking at it, like, this is a really good looking cutting board. I can just make 2 cuts right here, join these 2 sides together. That, I mean, that is a really interesting pattern. There's a part of me that wants to just stop here, cut a cool handle, join these 2 pieces together and call it a charcuterie board. It's going to be a little hard to make this line up perfectly because the edges aren't perfect. So I can't line it up by the edges, and I won't be able to exactly see where all the parts are. So it might not ever get better looking than this. Jump forward to the end and see if I've got regrets. But if there's any gaps when we're turning, we'll just deal with them at the time, I guess. Since this is 1.5 inches in thickness, that means that the final dimension can only be 1.5 inches. So what part do I cut away? What I did was I made a template here with a piece of plastic that is 1.5 inches in width. I want to make sure that I get as much of the good stuff as possible. We definitely want that center line. Okay, we've got it mounted on the lathe. This is 23 inches long, and it is the largest thing I've ever put on my lathe. In fact, up until this point, I wouldn't have been able to do this project because my old lathe wasn't big enough. But this Nova has, well, you can see about 23 inches. We're pretty much at the max length here. And I need to just taper it from this point down on either end. It doesn't need to be a huge taper. There we go. There we go. We've got the dimensions that we like. Got a nice taper on both ends. And we're just going to switch over to sandpaper. I'm actually trying a new type of sandpaper today. It's called Wonder Weave. It's interesting. It's got holes in it. Now we'll see. We'll give it a shot. We're going to start at 120 and go up through to 600. Your hand can feel the imperfections better than you can see them. I got some issues right there. And then 600. 600 for a rolling pin is more than plenty. More than plenty. As for a finish, I'm just going to use some of this walnut oil. Used this on a couple projects before, and it's food safe. Wow. Drunken Rolling Pin. Thank you, Elliot. That is a fantastic idea. I think it came out really good. This is a cutting board that I made, and it's the first and only cutting board I've ever made. It's called a drunken board because none of the cuts are straight. I always thought of it like Drunken Master Kung Fu. Even though he's drunk and all of his kicks and punches seem erratic and misplaced, he's always able to knock out his opponent. Same thing happens with the drunken cutting board. Even though all the cuts are wavy and wild, they line up perfectly, and it's that repeating pattern that makes this project so interesting. It's funny, very few things look exactly like what they do in my head when I first picture them. This is exactly the way I pictured it in my head. And if you watch the channel, then you know that that rarely happens. I'm super happy with it. We've got very tight joints. The pattern is near perfect. It's repeating and continuous, and it doesn't appear to have any breaks or jumps in the pattern. And then the walnut and the maple they just go so good together. This is a French style rolling pin. I went around and looked at a bunch of these before I started this project, and their dimensions seem to vary wildly. I saw some that were 2 inches in diameter down to 1.25 inches, some that were 24 inches long down to 16 inches long. Drastic taper, shallow taper, so I think we're right in the middle of all of those. This is 1.5 inches in diameter and 1.25 inches at the ends. It feels good in your hands, it rolls well, and the tapers allow you to pivot easily. I think this is a fantastic way to finish off 2019 with a wood project, just to throw you all off. Woodworking Peter was super happy to get out in the shop and make a project and use his new lathe. It was really fun. Quick announcement. I will be going to Makers Central in 2020. That is May 2nd and 3rd of 2020 in Birmingham, England at the NEC Center. We went in 2018, but we'll be going back in 2020. If you're in the area, it's a great event. I will see you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.